So I would like to discuss in this session about the industrial synergies incubation in the UAE, most particularly in the context of UAE, and some insights into case studies and research gap and the way forward that we can think how we can take it further. So I would like to give brief overview of RK Research and Innovation Center, which many of you might be knowing, that is existing in Ras Al Khaimah. So, which is one of the oldest R&D institute that has been established in UAE as CSUM UAE in 2006. And after that, many other institutes came into, popped up in UAE, like the Mastar Institute, TII, or even the SC Institute or Diva R&D. So everything came after. So after this oldest institute. However, so we had a collaboration with the Swiss company back then and Ras Al Khaimah government, and it has been dissolved in 2015, and it has been converted to RK Research and Innovation Center, and we are now under the umbrella of American University of Ras Al Khaimah. So the focus for us is applied R&D. We are not into the basic research or the basic sciences research. So we always look into the applied R&D solutions at TRL level more than 5, and look to support the SMEs or the technological innovations or the products or the solutions coming into the region through our performance testing infrastructure and R&D platforms that we build customized exclusively for evaluating different systems. So we are into the sustainable development of integrated systems for energy, water, and environmental applications. And our goal is to bridge the gap between the academia and the industry. And also in our role, we would like to serve as consultants in sustainability, performance testing of different products and solutions, innovation support, and pilot and demonstration scale studies in this region. So with that vast experience that we have in the past 15 years, we have a huge infrastructure that is developed with 10 research and development platforms and 5 R&D testing labs, very unique R&D testing labs that we have that are not existed in the region, but we are not vocal about that. But we do have very some unique facilities and we leverage upon them to fund our own R&D and also gather external R&D funding from the industrial entities. So as we discussed through our panel today, that R&D fundings is not that much encouraged in this region, and that's why we try to always collaborate with the industrial entities. Maybe it is a small or big, smaller industrial entities. We try to collaborate with them, extract some funds, and develop and build a system for them. And at the same time, we deliver the knowledge to our students involving on the project, and benefit and through this win-win model that we are creating at our research and innovation center. So that happened with the collaboration with the circus that we are working with them to take this subject of industrial symbiosis further into this region and try to develop certain models and the studies in this region. So I did, so when you look into the industrial symbiosis case studies, so we have a lot of expertise speakers that have spoken about industrial symbiosis right from the Colombo symbiosis and the very well established NISP in UK. So I'm a big fan of that industrial symbiosis program as well, and a lot of thoughts and a lot of information that has been given to us, and it is very insightful. So I would like to see that say to the participants here, especially from the industrial zones in Ras Al Khaimah and within the UAE. So the industrial symbiosis can happen with any of the products that is coming, or the byproduct coming from your infrastructure. Maybe it is energy, electricity, water, or the wastewater materials, either it is the different kinds of products or the byproducts, solid or the different kind of waste that you generate, and also the carbon emissions. So which can also we can capture and use it for certain applications, especially in the agriculture industry. So if you look into the cases, worldwide cases, different industrial areas, different industrial zones in different countries has worked in creating symbiosis between these different kind of process streams. So the energy, waste, or the water, or even the utility sharing between them. So taking the cues from these industrial symbiosis case studies. So most recently, I think I can give an example of the Turkey. So where the collaboration has been the key, the government entities collaborated with the industrial entities, and also The research institutes and the universities, around 17 universities participated in Turkey to create the industrial symbiosis implementation network in Iskenderun Bay in Turkey. So what is the output of that? So similar to the NISP program in the UK, so they have been able to do several studies funded by the ministry or by another private non-profit organization authority. So they have studied 10 synergies in depth and have seen that there is a potential for landfill diversion, energy savings, and carbon emissions. And you can see the cost factor in terms of putting up or developing new infrastructure can be paid back in 1.1 years. So, and they have implemented almost all the synergies that have been discussing, and they have included the concept of industrial symbiosis into national efficient policy. Why I'm bringing this into the picture, because this is the closest implementation network that we can see that is connecting to the Middle East, and we have to take the motivate and get motivated from this from the implementation of the synergies that has been done the region closest to us. And what are the studies in the MENA? Okay, so as far as we can see, there are only models or theoretical studies by the researchers like me and other researchers that has worked in this region, but there is no concrete example to show the implementation of the industrial symbiosis or try to get the industrial symbiosis in action in this region. So the Dr. El Wassa from Jayed University, she studied on an eco-industrial park for one of the highly waste generating industrial zone in the Egypt. And they emphasized the establishment of new facilities and to close the loop and to have to benefit from the byproducts and exchange of the byproducts. Then another study that has been done in Oman, so mainly looking into the institutional capacity and determining factors for advancing the industrial symbiosis by applying to the Sohar port and the free zone in the Oman. So the study identified the strengths and the weaknesses. As our speakers has mentioned, there are barriers and there are advantages and benefits. All has been extensively studied and reported in this study as well. And finally, the most recent study done by Khan et al., the researchers from Saudi Arabia and UAE University in Ireland. So they explored potential prospects of establishing these industrial exchanges from major industries of Saudi Arabia. So, and of course, the similar output of the conclusion that they are giving that there is significant environment impact or environmental carbon emissions, GHG savings, if you can influence the extraction and production of the raw materials and the energy utilization properly and divert it to other industries to create the synergies. So that's proven and that's known theoretically and all, but it's not practically established in the region. So this is the resource mapping that has been developed by Saudi Arabia, the mapping different industrial entities, different types of industries in Saudi Arabia, and the similar type of mapping can be done in the UAE, considering the major industrial entities in the UAE. So right from the oil and gas industries, petrochemical manufacturing, so metals manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, cement, ceramics, glass industries. So the list goes on. And so the UAE has been becoming a major manufacturing hub for different products in the region. And at this juncture, it is important to look into the potential of industrial symbiosis and establish certain synergies that can deliver the overarching goals of the decarbonization in the region. So one of the important aspects in the UAE, coming to the case of the UAE, and I would like to highlight the research gap that has been, that we can see in the UAE. And I would like to start with the UAE circular economy policy that has been emphasizing upon one of the aspects, that is the sustainable manufacturing, apart from the sustainable transportation, green infrastructure, and food production and consumption. So the circular economy policy has incorporated the sustainable manufacturing, and within that we have this green sectoral clusters or eco-industrial parks, which is the essential core model of the industrial symbiosis networking and all. So the policy has been there, and they have been stressing upon the sustainable manufacturing in the region for resource efficiency, remanufacturing, resource reuse, the business, develop new business models, product and the material design, and also they have the overarching priorities on bringing new technologies, circular economy innovations, building awareness and the capacity, partnership collaboration, access to sustainable finance, circular procurement, waste management. So all these are the priorities that has been included in the circular economy policy, and everything embeds into the concept of bringing this industrial symbiosis in light into this region and to reach the goals of the sustainable manufacturing in this region. So with that background and with that policy that has been driven towards the circular economy, so there has been circular economy working group, advanced net zero working group in the region that has been established, and they are trying to develop certain policies, regulation of the standards relevant to the circular economy adaptation in the region and implementation in action in the region. And so we have done one case study a few years back in with the funding from Al Qasmi Foundation in Ras Al Khaimah, and taking the example of Al Ghail Industrial Area, which is the biggest industrial area in the Ras Al Khaimah. And so there are around 33 entities participated in the study. We consider the major waste producing entities in the Al Ghail industrial area, around 20 entities. And then we have the cement manufacturing industry also included in the study. So we looked into their the waste management or the, so we basically looked into the done the research for the process waste rather than an energy or the water. So we looked into the waste process waste only. And we have seen that the landfill diversion that we can achieve from the Al Ghail industrial area in the year maybe 2018 or 2017 was around 61%. So as most of the materials like paper, glass, metal, plastic, mixed and certain organic waste are recycled, and the diversion rate was achieved by 61% by those entities. But if you look into the potential total virgin materials that has been substituted, so the real diversion rate is calculated, as I believe from one of the research study, is the zero waste index, which takes into the potential of virgin materials substituted. That means what are the recyclable materials that going to the landfill, that they are not potentially resubstituted as a virgin materials into the economy. So if you look into those aspects, and if you recalculated the diversion rates based on the zero waste index, so the diversion rate is reducing to 51%. So we have to look into this aspect of holistically looking into the potential GHG emissions reduction, or the potential GHG emissions increase because of not recycling the waste that can be properly utilized by another entity or another way, or through redesign, repurpose, and different other ways. If you don't look into that aspect, then your diversion rate, whatever you calculate based on the weights and the tonnage, is not an accurate index of the diversion, but rather than, but you have to look into the how much virgin materials that you are reducing to calculate the actual diversion rates. So I believe that the concept of zero waste index is valid. And in this case, the diversion rate is around 50% for this industrial zone, and it can be improved. That means almost 50% is getting to the landfill or use of the new materials rather than the recycled materials. So we also identified certain challenges and the barriers for the industrial symbiosis, as mentioned by Dr. Paul. There are barriers, and I am very much intrigued to learn that even after 20 years, the barriers are still existing. So the people are not considering the waste as a byproduct. So the people are not considering the waste as a value for it, and not looking holistically to divert that in a proper way. And that's where the diversification and collaboration comes into the picture. So when we look into the industrial engagement for this waste reduction initiatives in the Al Ghail industrial area, So the survey says that around 47% of the people are doing waste trading with the other companies, maybe the recycling companies or the through not structured ways, not in a proper framework ways. They are doing this waste trading trading things. So they are engaged in these activities, but they don't know that waste can be utilized by an industry which is next door to them. So all of these companies who are trading the waste are sending to other industrial areas like the Asman or the Umm Al Quwain or even some part of the Sharjah, but not within the Ras Al Khaimah industrial area. So there, the logistics comes into the picture, and the associated emissions comes into the picture, and overall you are contributing more to the emissions or the climate change because of this trading, not considering the ones that is within your industrial cluster, within your close proximity. And we have seen from the example of UK that the industrial symbiosis are happening not only within the close proximity, but also even far distances as well. But in a proper and the structured way, if it is happening and everybody knows that can be done, then it can catalyze the process of industrial symbiosis, and others will encourage to do those kind of activities. And there are many challenges and the barriers. I would not talk in detail about them. So there are very much what I can say standard challenges, barriers that is mentioned by every researchers that has been working on the industrial symbiosis subject. And one of the important thing that is the knowledge gap about the inventories of the other tenants. So this is what we see very beginning at the basic thing, that is the barrier that is not allowing the industrial symbiosis to happen within the proximity. So the industry doesn't know what the other industry next to it is producing. There are, as Dr. Paul mentioned, that they are doing it in secretly, and they are not disclosing their waste data, and also they are working in the silos, and all these things are creating barriers, and very significant barriers to take this industrial symbiosis into real scale implementation. So with that, so I would like to say that the basic challenges to overcome for this successful transition in this region is to find use case for the resource, find some way and find where your byproduct or resource can be utilized in a better and a proper way. And the matching of the supply of the resource with the demand, so which is a gap as well, we have seen here. So we don't have big funded programs or any even small funding programs to do these kind of activities in the region, and to know what are the waste streams or the byproduct streams or the resources available from different entities, and measuring and rewarding environmental achievements, so which is also lacking from the government perspective to encourage this kind of measuring and rewarding this kind of achievements, as we are talking about the financial incentives programs for encouraging these different industries to engage in these kind of sustainability initiatives such as circular economy or industrial symbiosis. So the transaction of industrial symbiosis definitely needs agreement between two parties, that is the supplier and the user, one industry and another industry. And the basic things that you have to know: what is the quality, the features and the characteristics of the resource, and the quantity, how much you can deliver to the other industry, and the price, the balance between the interest of the both parties to come together and engage in a symbiotic way. So the example of Colombo symbiosis in Deer Park is one of the best example in terms of industries engaging by themselves and indulging in these kind of activities by creating a balance between them and sharing the resource of water, waste, or the energy between them, and creating the one successful industrial symbiosis network. So the industrial entities has to look into these kind of aspects and engage in those kind of activities. So if you look into the broader perspective of industrial symbiosis, it's not an exchange of resources between two industries. For example, in Ras Al Khaimah, we have ceramic industries and the glass industries, which are closely located with each other, and they can engage in a symbiotic activity by exchange of certain resources. But if you look into the broader perspective of urban symbiosis, which is, I think, that has been done by the UK Yorkshire Circular Lab, looking into the aspects of utilizing the urban waste and connecting them with the industrial symbiosis. For example, the city waste in terms of the eggshells can be utilized for tile manufacturing here. And the energy, the organic waste, or the sludge from the wastewater treatment plant in the community level can be utilized for agriculture sector or biogas production. And from this, the energy can be utilized back into the industries. So we have to create, if you cannot find a proper case of industrial symbiosis that can be embedded into the economy, so definitely we have to look into the overall perspective of the community-based or urban symbiosis effects, and combine the industrial urban symbiosis together and create holistic models and enhance the circular economy in the region. This is one example that is done in the Spain, and that definitely can be implemented in this region as well. So what are the research gaps, and what is the research regional research support, and it is required for the sustainable development through industrial symbiosis, for the industrial symbiosis in the region? So one of the things is that the research has to be done to explore and share innovative use of the byproducts. Unless we don't know, as an academics or the university or the research institute, what are the byproducts that are existing in the industries, we cannot explore and do the innovative, share the innovative use or develop models for those byproducts. So that's where the platform, the surplus, comes in the picture. It's very the platform where we can see all the byproducts and products, where you can put and we can see and observe what is the flow of the materials, and develop innovative way of using those materials. And we have to be, and also, so the research has to be done to make sure that all the industrial entities within that ecosystem should be aware of the tools and the enabling process for this industrial symbiosis to happen. And also provide the research, the researchers or the universities or the academics has to provide insightful studies to inspire, adopt the good practices for successful leveraging upon certain regional policies, instruments, incentives, etc., and promote the industrial symbiosis for the industrial entities, of course, with the support of the public entities in the region. Like we have the RAC municipality in this region and the public works department. So these entities has to help to promote in this material mapping and adopting good practices for valorization of the waste or water or the energy streams in your operations. And finally, so it is always required to investigate opportunities for industrial symbiosis and develop unique or customized business models for long-term and robust symbiosis facilitation in this region. So all these aspects has to be taken into consideration when you further do engage in the research in this direction, and guide the industrial entities to engage into this process of industrial symbiosis. So I strongly believe that there is a need for action-oriented consortium or working group. So like taking the examples from the other successful industrial symbiosis programs around the world. So we need a consortium forming to foster the region's industrial symbiosis and the urban symbiosis growth. The stakeholders can be universities, research and knowledge innovation centers, and industrial champions who can really divert some of the funds to engage in these kind of activities and fund these kind of activities. And free zone authorities who are trying to build new kind of eco innovation parks and all, they have to be a part of this holistic approach. And of course, the local authorities and the ministries of the region all has to come together and support the sustainable development of the circular economy, industrial symbiosis in this region. So I believe that there are huge benefits for the local and circular economy, with the circular value chains. And the industrial symbiosis transaction is basically a business transaction that can give value for your byproducts, and you have a lot of advantages at the industrial level. So you can explore the synergies at the local level, and explore more opportunities for the waste heat or the bulky materials. So, and also you can avoid the resilience to supply chain shocks. Most of the raw materials that is coming into the region are from the out of the region, and if you cannot properly utilize the raw materials and the byproducts that can be utilized as raw material for the other industries, maybe you might suscept to this certain supply chain stocks. And if you can properly do that, you can be self-resilient on that. And so you have to analyze the availability of the primary and the secondary raw material that is availability in the region. You can use it within your operations, and leverage upon the waste processing that is near to your entity and near the source, in compliance with the legislation, of course, the environmental regulation. And with respect to the UAE economy and the environment, so you'll be reducing material dependency, boosting local manufacturing. That is the Make in Emirates campaign. So the value maintained within the region and the decarbonization and the green growth can be well established in terms of environmental benefits within the region through the industrial symbiosis. I believe that the people has to change their mindset and in the region, and think about the involving in this kind of activities. And so as I teach my students in the senior design projects, and our design thinking or the system thinking is a key for establishing or understanding any problem and how to solve and evolve a solution out of that. So here, industrial symbiosis works on the same level. So we have a problem. Suppose an industry has to analyze that you have a challenge in managing your waste of the byproduct. So what is your approach in handling this this resource? We have to first identify that as a resource rather than waste. And your approach should be, okay, discover what is the approach of handling this. So you find through some research and from some certain innovative solutions and from the waste that has from the information that is disclosed by the other industries within the proximity, you learn that the byproduct has a value, it can be utilized within the economy. So how can you integrate its worth and your operations? How can you integrate so that you have to think as an industrialist or industrial people who are working towards the sustainability has to think this, interpret the things. And then you have to see the potential of opportunity to exchange within your proximity or and a wider prospect as well. So what do we need to create or evolve an industrial symbiosis process? So industrial symbiosis as synergy incubation at the beginning is always a critical and a challenging step. So you have to go through this design thinking process to evolve that, and how to engage in experimentation or by exchanging some kind of byproducts with the other industrial entities who can benefit from that. So how you have to think that how can I incubate an industrial symbiosis process within my proximity or within the region. Then once you identify that and you know that others can use your resource as a raw material for that one, then you have to ready to evolve the synergy and make sure and take an action to exchange the resources. But of course, you need to have a backup of the instruments, the tools, or the drivers for the evaluation from the government perspective or the local regulations or the standards perspective. You need to holistically look into those aspects, and the whole all this process to evolve an industrial symbiosis synergy takes you to think in a design or systems thinking perspective and approach towards sharing of these resources in a holistic way. And I believe that collaboration, as we discussed, is important, and there are many actors that has to be involved in conceptualization of the industrial symbiosis. So there should be an anchors, brokers, champions, scavengers, orchestration coordinators, all these coming from different entities, different sectors within an economy, from the government, from the industries, from the education, from SMEs or the technology developers, and the recyclers, waste management agencies. All they can take different roles in this conceptualization of the industrial symbiosis and incubate synergy and evolve a synergy. So what happens if you evolve a synergy and once you and how it can catalyze a reaction and help you to make more synergies and develop industrial clusters that operating in the circular economy model. So I'm very much encouraged through the approach of the biomimicry that we are talking about, the nature-based solutions and the biomimicry solutions. And one of the biomimicry approach for the reproduction of the biological species like the corals, those biomimicry principles can be applied for reproducing the industrial symbiosis synergies and evolving them to a stage that they can be institutionalized within the economy, starting with reproducing. So there are different ways of reproducing: budding, broadcast spawning, brooding, so that an industrial symbiosis can emerge with the influence of an existing or depending upon existing symbiosis, or it can be evolved through knowledge diffusion, targeted knowledge diffusion, or non-targeted knowledge diffusion. It can be evolved, and it can sprout. This is process is called sprouting of an industrial symbiosis. Then the next stage, it goes to the uncovering of the industrial symbiosis, that is synergy. So, or in terms of the biomimicry bioprocess, it is called the settling down process. So where we can stay attached with the existing symbiosis and develop and remain dependent on the parent symbiosis, or it can bud off and become an independent symbiosis from the parent symbiosis. And also, and finally, you can settle down as a newly emergent symbiosis and taking into depending upon the existing symbiosis. And finally, the final stage is the institutionalization, where we can grow larger. If you can able to incubate and settle one industrial symbiosis or one industrial symbiosis cluster and incubate one industrial symbiosis, it can act as a catalyst to develop colonies like in the bioprocesses. So we can emerge different industrial clusters at different zones within the UAE, and they can co-work together and share the resources and formally institutionalize that, so that it can happen naturally as we go further, and that can be embedded into the economic approach. So with this, what we are offering what we are trying to do in this subject, in collaboration with the suppliers or the other entities in this region, and the AURAC would like to pioneer in this area and to create kind of eco-synergetics lab or Center for Industrial Symbiosis, taking into the example from the Danish industrial symbiosis or the UK symbiosis efforts or other parts of the Turkey or the South Korea. So we want to create a knowledge base here for the industrial symbiosis with the collaboration of different parties to create awareness of this industrial symbiosis and ESG, and also in the context of circular economy, and share or develop ideas for innovative use of the waste by mapping the byproducts of the resources, and develop circular solutions, and develop assessment tools or collaboratively work to develop assessment and performance evaluation in collaboration with the regulatory and specification development authorities, or the municipalities, local municipalities in the region, or the public works department in the region. And also identify best practices in overcoming the challenges for the uptake of the synergies. And finally, so develop evidence-based business cases of the solutions by extensively supporting the SMEs coming into the region with innovative ideas that can be embedded into the operations of the industrial entities in the region, to evolve into certain kind of synergies, not only the industrial level, but the urban level, creating industrial and urban symbiosis in the region. So collaboration is the key, education is the key, knowledge sharing is the key. All these aspects we would like to include with the and collaborate with the entities around the region and help the industries to drive towards those kind of aspects. So RAK Research and Innovation Center currently.
Excuse me, Dr. Uday, I
Yes.
think we've gone over quite a bit.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind wrapping up, and
yeah, I will be wrapping up.
the closing ceremony.
This is the last. So okay. So how RAK Research Innovation Center is helping in achieving these industrial symbiosis models. So we are working with a lot of SMEs to develop the case studies of the models within our research center and to showcase the real solutions for the region. And so I would like to end. This is the responsibility of all the industrial entities, of the people, to work together for the circularity and decarbonization in the region, work together, learn from each other, understand what are the challenges, and incorporate this approach as a green procurement practice. And you have to make this a norm to successfully transform.